All right. So I'm very happy to welcome you all to this webinar on safe infrastructure for active mobility in Africa. We're going to have discussions and cases from different countries, from different organizations. It's going to be a very interesting conversation from different angles as well. Not only the typical angle that you're aware on terms of road safety, but even also how this fits in road asset management and the importance on considering safety for pedestrians and cyclists within that sphere. So we welcome you. We know that this is a very important session for Africa, because we know that more than 70% of people across our continent walks, and therefore we have the responsibility as decision makers, as policy makers, as infrastructure designers, urban designers, financiers, NGOs in charge or supporting this agenda, to really put the finger on the wound and ask for more and better investment on this area. So please, I want everyone to be active, not only listening to the speakers. We have lined up a very interesting set of speakers, as I said before, but asking questions, raising aspects that you think have not been covered and or you would like more details on this. We're really going to be paying attention to all of this on the chat, and if time allows, also by each of our speakers. So having said that, just a few housekeeping aspects. We have translation available between French and English. If you type below on more, you will find a little globe that says interpretation, and you're welcome to choose the language of your preference. If you have any other question, please don't hesitate in reaching us out through the chat. And with that said, I pass it over to Latif from the African Association of Road Safety Lead Agency Secretariat. Latif, over to you.
Good morning, Maricela. Good morning, all our participants. We bring greetings, a very warm one from the Secretariat of AARSLA here in Abuja, West Africa. And it is a pleasure to organize this webinar today with in conjunction with the SSATP, the African Transport Policy Program of the World Bank. We are glad to even have the program manager for the SSATP in-house. And from the team of the Secretariat, we say good morning once again. And as the opening remarks made by Maricela, we have seasoned experts in road infrastructure, transport economics, and whatever that has to do with road safety in Africa and across the globe joining us this morning. Once again, thank you for coming. And it is in commemoration of the World Bicycle Day that is being organized globally today. So we have about 6 participants or panelists that will be giving us sharing their experiences with us on infrastructure, safety, and cyclist and pedestrian safety in Africa. So permit me to just welcome the president of AARSLA for giving us his opening remarks. Then, after him, we'll be listening to the program manager of the SSATP. So the president of AARSLA, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Latif, from our secretariat, the Secretariat of ASEAN. So distinguished participants, esteemed presenters, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you good day. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the second African Association of Road Safety Lead Agencies webinar, which is being held in commemoration of the World Bicycle Day. The choice of both the subject of today's webinar and the day on which we are meeting was deliberate. Across Africa and indeed the world, vulnerable road users, including cyclists and pedestrians, continue to bear the greatest burden of road traffic fatalities and serious injuries. This reality, as we can all agree, is unacceptable and it must change. Today's webinar focuses on a critical area of intervention, that is safe infrastructure. Safe infrastructure is one of the most effective tools available to us in protecting vulnerable road users and creating road systems that are safe, inclusive, and sustainable. The roads we design and build should not only facilitate mobility, but also preserve lives. This seminar is intended to stimulate action, particularly among all of us who occupy positions of responsibility and influence in road safety. It is a call for us to move beyond acknowledging the problem and towards implementing practical solutions that will save lives. As is evident from the excellent presentations that are lined up for today, this platform is also meant to facilitate the exchange of experiences from across Africa and beyond. We have an opportunity to learn from one another, to share what works, and to collectively strengthen our approaches to safer road infrastructure. Africa must not only advocate for safer roads, Africa must act and act impactfully. I firmly believe that if we successfully address the safety needs of vulnerable road users, we can significantly reduce road traffic injuries and fatalities. Indeed, we could bring down these tragic numbers by well over 30%. That's a goal that's worth pursuing with urgency and determination. I therefore encourage all of us as participants today to engage actively throughout this seminar. Let's ask questions, let's share experiences, let's challenge assumptions, and leave this webinar more informed, more inspired, and even more passionate about making our road infrastructure safe for everyone. Before I conclude, please allow me to express my sincere appreciation to all the presenters who graciously accepted our invitation and agreed to share their expertise with us. I also wish to commend Kenya for leading this thematic area and to thank the AARSLA Secretariat and the Executive Committee, as well as SSATP, for the outstanding work they've done in organizing these webinars. Your dedication and commitment continue to strengthen our collective efforts as AARSLA towards safer roads across the continent. Thank you so much, and I wish you a productive and an impactful webinar. Thank you. Back to you, Latif.
Thank you very much, my president, Andrew Kiplagat, for leading the AARSLA Executive Committee and then for giving us a clear direction into a new Africa as far as road safety is concerned. So we appreciate your commitment, and then we also say a big thank you to the executive team for working together to put this webinar together. Before I usher in the program manager of the SSATP, Mrs. Cecilia, permit me to do a little recognition. We have just listened to the president of AARSLA, Andrew Kiplagat. We are also joined by all the vice presidents of AARSLA from West Africa, Central Africa, and East Africa. We say a big thank you to you all for joining us this morning. We are also privileged to have in-house this morning Dr. Kayode Olagoju, PhD. Is a retired deputy commissioner from Federal State of Nigeria and a reader at the university in Southwest Nigeria. Now, we also have Assistant Minister of Transport from Liberia, Honorable Zuno. We say a big thank you to you for joining us. We also have in-house Mr. Usman Maiga, the president of West Africa Road Safety Organization, WASU, and a lot of others. Please, I may not be able to mention all the participants, but as time goes on, I'll be able to do a brief recommendation of our some of our participants. So, without much ado, I want to use this media to invite the program manager for African Transport Policy Program of the World Bank, Mrs. Cecilia Jamandia. Madam, if you are there, if you are online, please, you can unmute yourself.
I am. Can you help me? This is good. Great.
Very loud and clear. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm thrilled to be here. And quite frankly, this is my first engagement in a training and a webinar session in my official capacity. So I couldn't be happier than that. And I'm thrilled with the interest of everybody in the topic. And I'm not going to even try to thank individually all of you, but probably I need to single out one, President of AARSLA. Thank you for being here and being provided, and I'm invited here. In summary, hello everyone. Welcome to this seminar, which happens to be the second webinar in a series that the SSATP African Transport Policy Program and the African Association of Road Safety Agency are organizing. Well, for friends and families, we are known as SSATP and AARSLA. So now on SSATP and AARSLA. But today is a very special day. Today is the World Bicycle Day. Quite frankly, I cannot think in a better way to celebrate this day than by thinking together how to make sure these millions of Africans that move, work, and make a living with active mobility are safe, are protected, and are taken care of. Yes, we need to bring them to the fore and center of public transport and resilient mobility agenda. That is the objective that we all have today. Let us make sure that they are not forgotten, that they are not an afterthought, and embrace that when we design cities, roads, urban spaces, people are the center of that decision. The natural mode of mobility of people is active mobility, and that should guide our policy decisions. Active mobility is not a luxury. Is not a luxury. Now, pedestrians and cyclists are, unfortunately, the most vulnerable users of African roads. I don't need to tell you that. They face a disproportionate risk and they can bear the cost of our poor policy decisions. Us as policymakers are at the center of the problem. And let us be clear, the risk is not because of their decisions, it's because our decisions as policymakers. Actually, active mobility should and is a mature system, the transport mode of choice. I happen to be right now in Paris, and if I see through the window, what I see is people doing active mobility, a city that has transformed itself from being designed for cars to be now designed for people. A lot of risk then is because we are not making the right decisions. The question is, how do we change that? Well, first, we should get rid of the stigma that brings active mobility in Africa and in many countries, in many continents, okay? Because it's perceived like the active mobility is like a, lack of status. And yes, driving a car is a sign of a status, but not necessarily is a sign of well-being. Talk to Parisians, okay? Second, prioritize people over vehicles when you make policy decisions. active mobility is a matter of equity, is a matter of public health, is an economic and development opportunity. When a child cannot walk to school safely, when a vendor cannot cycle without fear, when a woman cannot move through her city without risk, we policymakers are failing. It's our most basic obligation to make that decision. Third and finally, how we change that? Embracing the technical aspects behind making spaces and infrastructure safe for pedestrians and cyclists. And that is what is today's conversation about. SSATP and AARSLA are committed to support countries in rising to this challenge. Through instruments like the Pan-African Action Plan for Active Mobility, we are working alongside the African Union and UN agencies and all of you, okay, with government, cities, partners, everybody, to translate these good intentions and with thoughts into concrete policy investment and actions. Those are technical decisions, and today is a very technical seminar to support that. The presentations and discussions today will go from urban design and low-cost infrastructure solutions to technical data and indicators, their enforcement of policies, and passing through as well rural and urban connectivity. What we know for sure is that there is not a single answer, it's not a silver bullet. But we do know that we have a shared vision, we have a shared direction, or so I hope, a common goal. Roads must be safe for everyone. More roads must be designed for people. Cities must be designed for people. Spaces must be designed for people. So, as you can tell, I'm extremely passionate about the topic, and I really hope you are as well. So, in the name of SSATP, I welcome with great pleasure all of you to today's seminars and invite you to engage actively. Thank you, AARSLA, for this continuous partnership, and thank you all for being here. So let's give the ground to the expert. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Cecilia, for that words of commitment and encouragement from the SSATP. You know, SSATP gave birth to what we know today as AFRICA, with the support of other international institutions across the globe. We say a very big thank you to you. I want to use this medium to say welcome on board to SSATP. Having taken over from Mustafa Ben Mama, your predecessor, it did extremely well for Africa, and we wish you do the same, even better than how it was, how you met it. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. We are family here. I mean, we are all Africa. Actually, I'm from Venezuela, and half of my family is from African origin, from the Maghreb and that. So let me tell you, we are all together on this.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Now we move to the business of the day, the presentations. Permit me to go to Kenya, and we have just listened to a woman. We also want to listen to another woman of substance with wealth of experience in road design and road audit, and an expert per se in the areas of civil engineering. With your permission, I welcome on board Engineer Christian Ogot, a professional civil engineer and road safety specialist, and with over 35 years of experience in road design, transport infrastructure, and road safety management, and so on and so forth. Presently, she's a Deputy Director in charge of audit and inspections at the National Road Transport and Safety Authority, NASA, in Kenya. So, Madam Christian, if you are there, please unmute yourself and put on your video and let us listen in 7 minutes. Please, I don't want to be too harsh on our panelists today. If you are getting to 6 minutes, I will say hello. So by the time I say hello, hello, that means you have exhausted your 7 minutes. Madam, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Kindly share my presentation.
Please go ahead, please.
I can't see the presentation. Thank you very much. My presentation today is on designing safe roads for cyclists and pedestrians. Next slide. Next slide. So we will look at what is the cost of the design decisions by the engineers. You can see a very nice pedestrian and cycle lane in our capital city of Nairobi. What have we learned from road safety audits and crash analysis? Is it really an issue of safe design or a compliant design? What really needs to take precedence? How have engineering decisions impacted on safety? And then finally, designing for safer infrastructure. Next slide. So my next slide actually provides, please go to the next slide. The next slide provides that the cost of our design decisions. Sometime last year in September, we lost 6 students at 6:20 a.m. and simply because they were going to school, a motorist veered off the road and fatally injured the 6. And we find that the percentage of pedestrian fatalities on our roads are leading at 37.3%, as you can see in that figure, while the percentage of cyclists on our road fatalities are the lowest at 1.44%, and simply because we have not provided infrastructure for them. You can see the last photo shows a group of blind pedestrians trying to cross a dual carriageway. They're not able to go up a bridge, and so they're just crossing in the middle of the road. Next slide. So the next slide just says that when we make engineering decisions, it determines how the road user will use the infrastructure. We have a picture there of a footbridge that is not being used because the ramp is too steep. So even the people with disabilities cannot use it. I tried going up that ramp and it was a challenge. So at the end of the day, why are those children, those are school children, walking on the road? And they're walking on the road because an engineer somewhere decided to build a beautiful road, but forgot to provide a walkway for the children. Next slide. Next slide, please. That just brings out what we have found out in crash fatalities for pedestrians and cyclists near schools, near markets, bus stops. Vehicle operating speeds are very high. The long distance between safe crossing opportunities makes the pedestrian want to take the shortest available route. Next slide, please. So in terms of a safe design meets the design standards, but it necessarily does not meet the safety needs of all road users. And why am I saying that? Whereas the road design should be protecting the lives of the pedestrians, it doesn't give them the opportunity that when a mistake occurs, they will be fatally injured. It needs to focus on all the road users, be it the pedestrians, be it the cyclists, and it should also needs to be forgiving. Next slide, and I've shown a drain that is adjacent to pedestrian walkway. Then we have speed. Speed is the most important decision. And you have seen the higher the speed, the higher the risk of exposure. So you see, speed will determine your crash severity. You'll find that beyond 30 kilometers per hour, then definitely you're going to be fatally injured. it determines survivability and whether a mistake becomes fatal. So engineers, we make engineering choices in terms of how wide is the walkway going to be? Is it going to be raised? Are we going to provide traffic calming measures? And those, are we going to provide protected cycle facilities? And those impact on safety. The next slide, please. Next slide. So what does a safe infrastructure look like? Continuous footpath, safe crossings where people must cross. Don't just provide a crossing because as an engineer, you've not done a survey. Protected and dedicated cycle tracks, refuge islands, traffic calming, good lighting. We have footbridges at night because of inadequate lighting or no lighting. Nobody is using them, and so the pedestrians get knocked at night. Safe intersections, good quality of walkways, lighting for safe persons crossing using the road infrastructure. Next slide. Next slide. So maybe you can just go to the previous slide before I go to the call for action. So I've just taken you through what safe infrastructure is all about, because it makes the pedestrians and the cyclists make a safe choice. So when you don't provide for them all those items that I have listed, then they are at risk. And finally, let's go to the last slide, second last slide. The last slide is the challenge to the engineers. And the challenge is that before approving any design, before supervising or constructing any project, the engineer does not just need to ask themselves, does this meet the standards? No, the engineer needs to ask, where will the pedestrian cross? Where will the cyclist ride? What happens when the driver is distracted? Remember the story I gave about the school-going children who were fatally injured. And the last point is on when mistakes happen, do they have to be fatal? So for me, a safe road is a road when a child can cross safely, a cyclist feels protected, and human error does not result in death. The last slide, I think there's one more. So these are just case studies of what is happening in Nairobi. In the CBD, you can see a very beautiful walkway. Welcome to Nairobi to enjoy the infrastructure we are giving our pedestrians. On the other side, we can see again for infrastructure that is deliberate. So one of the lessons I have learned is that unless we are deliberate, unless we provide for the pedestrians, then they will never have safe road infrastructure. We have audited a section of the road in my concluding remarks where once the traffic calming measures were put in place, lighting was put, walkways, this is after a highway had been constructed and it was traversing an area that we really had serious fatal crashes and injuries, we were able to reduce fatalities by 70% on that section of the road.
Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your presentation. And then we know that when that we call upon you, you oblige us. So thank you for that beautiful presentation. And before we go to the next presentation, I want to warmly welcome all our participants again. By now, we are having about 195 participants online, and we are still expecting more. So before I call the next Mr. Abraham Amaliba, the Director General of the National Road Safety Authority of Ghana, kindly allow me to do a little recognition. We have online with us this morning the SSA to Lagos State Governor on sustainable transportation. We say good morning to you, sir. Then the Honorable Zunu, Assistant Transport, as well as Minister of Transport from Liberia. Then we also have Dr. Moraina Alajogun from Presidency, Nigeria. We say welcome on board, sir. Then I have our friends from Mozambique. Permit you to say bon dia. Bonilla, okay. Then from South Africa, Eswatini, Uganda, Lagos, we have participants. The Director General of Road Safety in Niger, Anize, Monsieur, bonjour, vous êtes la bienvenue. And all our participants across Africa, we say a very good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining us. Now we move on to the next presentation. In the next 7 minutes, we'll be listening to Mr. Abraham Amaliba, the Director General of Road Safety, of National Road Safety Authority of Ghana, a very good friend of the Secretariat of AARSLA, and a strong supporter of the association since the creation last year. Mr. Maliba, if you are there, please unmute and let us listen to you in the next 7 minutes. Thank you, sir. Okay, maybe he's having some technical glitches. So while waiting for him, I can quickly go to the next speaker. We want to listen to a presentation from the Pan-African Action Plan for Active Mobility, PAM-PAM frameworks. Constant Cap, the Program Manager Assistant, Active Mobility for Digitalization, Mode Integration, Sustainable Mobility Unit, United Nations Environment Program. So, Mr. Constant, let's listen to you, please. We have the floor. While we put Mr. Maliba on hold. In 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, and good morning, good afternoon. I'll just start by going back to what Christine has talked about, and I'll ask you to just picture the journey that children take every day and the obstacles and challenges that they find in their daily journeys to school, or when they are sent to the market by their parents, or any short journey that they're making. Why is it so difficult for children and also people who are differently abled to move around within our cities? Now, we know that Africa is urbanizing faster than any other region. We've been told about it. The fastest growing cities are on the continent. And the choices we make today are what will determine how hundreds of millions of people move within our cities tomorrow. And how do Africans move? Majority in our cities, as has been said, move by walking. 40 to 70% of daily trips are done by walking, followed by public transport that requires support infrastructure of walking. But we have, and we recognize some of the unique challenges that have already been mentioned. I'll just share some of them. We have a high reliance on walking. Okay, you'll see later on that we have actually 1 billion people who walk and cycle as their primary means of movement within the city. We have limited pedestrian infrastructure. Okay, it's still upcoming. Okay, we've seen some good examples, but we've also seen some bad examples in the previous presentation. We're going through rapid motorization, the prestige of owning the vehicle that has just been mentioned, the desire by more people to move, the fact that the motor vehicle is still one of the most efficient means of moving because of lack of alternatives. And then we have several informal urban systems that are, informal markets developing all over, a lot of informal settlements, that, and this leads, to a lot more reliance on walking, but also unique characteristics compared to other parts of the world. We recently looked at the policy framework, and you realize that not too many countries have national walking and cycling policies. As you can see, the countries in gray do not even be able to find data on their policy framework. A few countries have them embedded in their transport master plans. A few countries have national walking and cycling policy, or even a unique national NMT or active mobility policy on its own. And as at 2019, only 19 of the 54 countries were reported to have policies on walking and cycling. And this is from a report we did called the Walking and Cycling Inspiring Walking and Cycling in Africa. We call it the Inspiring Africa Report, which was done by UNEP and UN Habitat. And from here, we were able to tell, collecting data, that we have 1 billion people. And we have to support these 1 billion people who walk and cycle. Okay? And the paradox is all these people still struggle in our cities that either have poor infrastructure, or that have a car-oriented infrastructure, or that just do not prioritize how they move within our cities. So what do? We have to look at active mobility at the heart of the solution. And we've sat down and thought the best way to do it would be by doing something at the regional, at the continental level. And it's through this that we developed the Pan-African Action Plan for Active Mobility, PAPAM, a continental framework developed to promote and improve safe, sustainable walking and cycling across Africa. For the first time, Africa has a continental framework for walking and cycling, a shared vision, a unified direction, giving active mobility a priority. And this was not just developed overnight. It was conceptualized from 2022 at the African Regional Forum. Over 1,500 people have been consulted in over 20 meetings. It was launched at the World Urban Forum in August 2024. Initial validation was done with the African Union in August 2025. And last month, we had a major milestone where we got ministerial ratification by the Specialized Technical Committee on Transport and Energy at the African Union. Major movement that basically recognizes that ministers of transport and energy have endorsed the Pan-African Action Plan as a continental framework. And what does it PAPAM and involve? The guiding principles, leaving no one behind, evidence-based practice, policy coherence. We have to ensure policies work together, actively engaging communities, and building strong multi-sectoral partnerships. Together, all these elements create a foundation for more inclusive, effective, and sustainable action. And what does it have within it? PAPAM has 3 key action areas. The framework is built around these action areas to create safe, accessible, and comfortable places to walk and cycle. Advocating for people who walk and cycle on the continent, and embedding walking and cycling into investment processes. Within these action areas, we also have goals, including guaranteeing safety, enabling accessibility, enhancing comfort, boosting satisfaction, and increasing commitment to investment. And within the goals, we also have indicators. These you can see here. I know the indicators may not be too clear in this particular infographic, but when you access it, you'll be able to go and dig a bit deeper. Some of the major milestones that we've had this year was be able to have different interpretations of the Pan-African Action Plan for Active Mobility. We have a French version that we intend to launch later in this month. We have a Portuguese version, and we're currently working on the Arabic version. And as I mentioned, the PAPAM has been endorsed, by the ministers of transport and energy, which is a major movement for active mobility on the continent.
Thank you.
Beyond PAPAM, what are we doing? We have 5 major projects that I'll just briefly mention, and before I conclude. And these are in Ghana, Malawi, Cameroon, and Morocco, where we want to quickly just assist, study active mobility, provide whatever technical analysis is there, and do some capacity building and training with and community and advocacy from the people within those countries. I know we have a lot of good examples on the continent. This is from Kigali, this is from Nakuru in Kenya, this is from Addis, which we've seen. What you can do at individual, community, or institutional, or country level, you can be in touch with us on how you can embrace PAPAM in the work that you do. As I conclude, we'll just say that a good city is a place where people stay longer than really necessary because they are enjoying themselves. Some of the images Christine showed, some of these ones I've just showed, are a good example of where we want to go as a continent. With that, you can be able to scan this and get the digital version of the PAPAM. Thank you.
Good presentation. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Thank you, our participants. Please, we want to assure you that with the emails which you registered, you have all the presentations after this program. So we assure you that. So all the presentations will be sent to you. We've received some messages asking for the presentations, and we promise that it will get to you soon. So thank you, Constant, for that beautiful presentation. Allow me to go to Kenya. Now we have been listening to somebody who has been in the private and the public sector the experience I has gotten over the years, let us listen to him. Honorable Ibrahim Yangoya Auma, a seasoned public administrator and a development expert who has track record in governance, infrastructure, and environmental sustainability, and so that's as climate resilient and urban planning. Presently, before he joined his present appointment, he was the advisor to the former Kenyan Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Honorable Ibrahim, you are welcome on board in 7 minutes.
Thank you very much to the participants, colleagues, partners, and guests. It's a pleasure to share Nairobi City County's experience on low-cost, high-impact infrastructure solution. And I will ask my presentation to be projected. As cities across Africa continue to urbanize rapidly, you will find that local governments are increasingly challenged to deliver infrastructure that is not only effective, but also affordable, scalable, and sustainable. So in Nairobi, we have focused on practical interventions that improve mobility, safety, resilience, and public space while maximizing limited public resources. Next slide. What is this high-impact infrastructure? For Nairobi, low-cost, high-impact infrastructure means solutions that are fast to implement. Please, next slide. Thank you. For Nairobi, low-cost, high-impact infrastructure means solutions that are fast to implement, affordable to maintain, scalable, labor-intensive, and capable of delivering measurable public benefits. Our approach as Nairobi prioritizes people-centered, as had been said before, infrastructure that improves daily urban life without relying entirely on expensive mega projects. The emphasis is on efficiency here. The emphasis, again, is on innovation. The emphasis is on partnership and strategic use of available resources. Now, why Nairobi? Can I, next slide. Nairobi has evolved from a railway depot that was established in 1989. Just to give you a brief preview of Nairobi into the East Africa's leading diplomatic, commercial, and innovation hub. Now, today, as we speak, Nairobi hosts key global institutions, including UNEP and the UN Habitat, and remains one of Africa's fastest growing urban economies. However, rapid growth has also created enormous pressure on urban infrastructure, mobility systems, housing, drainage, and public services. Now, this context requires cities like Nairobi to rethink traditional infrastructure delivery. So let's go have the urban metrics for Nairobi. Next slide. The population for Nairobi was projected to be nearly 5 million by 2025. At the same time, the city faces major housing deficit, as I've mentioned the reasons above, increasing congestion and growing environmental concerns. So urban mobility, available public resources remain constrained. This is why affordable and high-impact infrastructure interventions are no longer optional. They are very necessary. So let's move to the next slide and check the surface summary for Nairobi. So you will find that our road infrastructure audit demonstrates that a substantial portion of Nairobi road network remains in poor and very poor conditions. Traditional road construction methods are increasingly expensive and often unsustainable for rapid growing cities. Therefore, Nairobi has prioritized affordable, rapidly deployable, and maintenance-friendly interventions that can improve mobility and accessibility at scale. The focus is not only on constructing new infrastructure, but also on maintaining and optimizing existing infrastructure efficiency. And we have some gaps in Nairobi. Let's move to the next slide. Now, several major challenges informed our strategy. Number one, they include high construction cost, drainage failures in Nairobi, as you can see in the picture, inadequate street lighting, and limited maintenance capacity. So flooding particularly affects informal settlements and frequently damages road foundations and pedestrian infrastructure. Rather than waiting for large-scale capital projects alone, Nairobi adopted incremental targeted interventions capable of delivering immediate impact. Let's move to the next one. Now, one important lesson from Nairobi is that infrastructure investment must reflect how residents actually move. Nearly half of Nairobi residents rely on public transport, while a significant percentage walk daily. Only a relative small proportion depend on private vehicles. This informed our decision to prioritize non-motorized transport, pedestrian infrastructure, and mass transit support systems. Investing where the majority of residents benefit, we realized produces the highest urban impact. Let's move to the innovative delivery methods that we have employed. To reduce the cost of and improve efficiency, Nairobi adopted innovative delivery approaches, including one, labor-based construction methods, hand-packed base works, and in-house rehabilitation programs. These methods create local employment, low carbon emissions, improve drainage integration, and significantly reduce response time for maintenance. By utilizing internal county capacity for minor works, we also reduce delays associated with lengthy procurement processes, as you know, happens in governments. Let's go to the next slide for our success story on NMTs. One of Nairobi's most successful intervention has been the pedestrianization and improvement of selected CBD streets. I've seen most of the pictures have been shared by the presenters earlier. We reclaimed over 200 parking spaces to create safer pedestrian walkways, improved lighting, integrated greenery, resting areas, and cycling facilities. As a result, we observed increased pedestrian activities, improving accessibility, and stronger business performance along these corridors. This demonstrates that relative modest investment in public space can produce substantial economic and social benefits. The other one is that in the next slide is the energy efficient street lighting, where another high impact intervention that Nairobi has done by retrofitting these lights. The county transitioned from the older pressure sodium system to energy efficient LED while utilizing existing infrastructure such as poles and wiring. Now, this approach significantly reduced installation cost and maintenance expenditure. Now, the next one is electric vehicle transition. To support cleaner urban mobility, Nairobi adopted a public investment partnership model for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Under this arrangement, we provide the strategic land, the private investor installs and operates the charging system. This approach allows infrastructure rollout without major upfront public expenditure. It also accelerates the transitions towards cleaner transport while minimizing financial pressure on government resources. The next slide, the impact assessment. You are able to see the impact assessment on Luthuli Avenue, which demonstrates the measurable impact of people-centered infrastructure and environment investments. This confirms that infrastructure improvements influence not only mobility, but also economic productivity, environmental quality, and public well-being. Next slide for the before and after transformations. This before and after images demonstrate how targeted interventions can transform urban spaces. You are able to see the before and after. The improvements include safer pedestrian movements, better drainage, organized public space, and improved accessibility. Importantly, many of these interventions, as I conclude, were implemented using practical and relatively affordable approaches rather than expensive construction projects. Next step, as I conclude, Nairobi continues to expand rapidly through friendly infrastructure, through partnerships and strategic urban designs. The walkways you are able to see in the CBD, the lights you are able to see, we've given pedestrians some safe walking space. And then lastly, what are the lessons that we can learn? We find that the experience has generated several important lessons. One, public participation and stakeholder engagement is very essential. Infrastructure delivery requires coordination across governments, national and local governments. The third one, political support is very necessary. And then finally, low-cost infrastructure solutions are most successful when they are practical, inclusive, and responsive to the daily needs of the residents. So in conclusion, cities in the Global South do not always require expensive mega projects to achieve meaningful urban transformation. Sometimes the highest impact comes from practical, scalable, and people-centered interventions implemented consistently and collaboratively. Nairobi's experience demonstrates that with innovation, partnerships, and strategic planning, cities can deliver infrastructure that is affordable, resilient, and transformative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ibrahim. Thank you. We really appreciate that presentation. From low cost and high impact infrastructure solutions, we now move to integrating non-motorized transport into urban planning. They are interwoven. And to do justice to that will be Mr. Abraham Amaliba. But before then, please, to our participants, this webinar is you have opportunity to listen to interpretation in French or English. So you just have to switch to whichever language that is appropriate or you understand better. Thank you. Mr. Abraham Amaliba, okay, the Director General of Road Safety, National Road Safety Authority of Ghana, from East Africa, we now come back to West Africa. We want to listen to see how integrating non-motorized transportation could be incorporated into urban planning. Mr. Amaliba, if you are there, please unmute and then we'll listen to you in the next 7 minutes. Thank you.
A very, very good morning to you from Ghana. It's good morning to you all. Can I have my presentation? It's not on yet.
We are doing that. We are doing that.
Okay.
We are sorry, Mr. Maliba. As soon as your presentation is shared, your minutes begin.
Meanwhile, a kind reminder, everyone, you can share your questions in the question and answer slot in the app. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for sharing the presentation.
Yes, 7 minutes. Thank you.
Integrating non-motorized transport into urban planning. That is my topic. And the non-motorized transport would include walking and cycling. And so basically, these are the things we'll be talking about, walking and cycling. Now, in order to create sustainable cities and also livable cities, there's a need to integrate NMT in urban development. This integration would lead to healthy lifestyles. It will lead to reduction in traffic congestions. It will lead to minimize environmental impacts, this impact of greenhouse emissions. Now, go to the next point. Go to the next slide. Next slide. Yes. So the importance of non-motorable or motorized transport. One, sustainability. That's the importance. And when we talk about sustainability, we are talking about what I just mentioned, the reduction of greenhouse emissions. We are talking about reducing fossil fuels. The vehicles burn all those things. So it will lead to sustainability of our environment. Public health is ensured. because physical activity will be encouraged by walking. So public health will be ensured, leading to improved health outcomes. Then economic viability, as you can see from the slide, economic viability, what this will do is that the citizens will not spend so much on transportation. And so the cost of transportation will be reduced. What are the challenges? Next slide. What are the challenges? What are the challenges that we would face? So what are standing in the way of these advantages I've just mentioned? What is the bottleneck? One, lack of infrastructure. Two, safety concerns. And three, cultural perceptions. You know, we don't have dedicated infrastructure for walking and cycling in most of our cities. The second one, which has to do with safety concerns, because we don't have separate routes for walking and cycling, the danger involved in walking along our routes is very high. So high accident rates. Then also the perception, cultural perception, the perception that that if you are walking or you are cycling, you belong to the underprivileged people. And so you want to be seen driving a car. And when you go to a place and you say, oh, you walked to the place, people begin to look at you in some way. So cultural perspectives are also the reasons why we are not able to achieve this walking and cycling as a policy in most African countries. So what strategies are available next? What strategies are available next? We need comprehensive urban planning, which will integrate the walking and cycling into the master plan. Zoning. This has to do with planning purposes, zoning the city, ensuring that we have dedicated streets, route for walking and cycling. Then we should design our neighborhoods in such a way as to be close to essential services. If your essential services are far away from the city centers or your neighborhood, it does not encourage walking to those places. So we should ensure that we design our neighborhoods to be for the proximity, for it to be closer to essential services. Then we have infrastructure development. These are some of the strategies. Public awareness campaign. Next slide. Yes. We also need public awareness, educate the community on the benefits of non-motorized transport. We need to focus on, in the education, we need to focus on safety. We need to focus on how this would improve their health benefits. And so we need to do these things. Then we need to highlight success stories. There are some cities that might have implemented these policies. Make reference to those cities and let the people know that in those cities, they have benefited from the non-motorized transport system when it was integrated into their transport system. So make examples of those cities for them to appreciate what you are talking about. Then another strategy is to policy support and funding. Let's go to the next slide. Yes. Next. Okay. This, okay, yeah. We will also need intermodal coordination. So here we are talking about integrating transport systems with easy connection to users, then also develop a bike sharing, and this is done in some European countries, develop a bike sharing and pedestrian friendly transport hubs to facilitate transport the transitions between models. So you can pick a train, but when you get to a point, you can hop onto a bike. So you integrate the two systems.
So you can
now, what is Ghana's approach?
You can round up.
Yes. So let's go to Ghana's approach. There's a place. Ghana's blueprint. In Ghana, we have the National Transport Policy and Transport System, policy system. This system provides the following: infrastructure integration, universal and equitable access. We also have urban planning. We have safety and enforcement. So we in Ghana, through this policy, are putting in place all these mechanisms to ensure that non-motorized transport systems are integrated in our transport system. In conclusion, integrating non-motorized transport into urban planning is vital for fostering an inclusive, sustainable, and healthier urban environment. And so with this, I think that when countries adopt the non-motorized transport system, there will be a lot of benefits for all to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. Yes, we have just listened to the Director General of National Road Safety Authority of Ghana, Amaliba. Thank you for that beautiful presentation. While I put Mr. Edward Sacramento on hold, let me quickly go to the World Bank to listen to Ms. Ocean Q. But before then, we have over 200 participants. I want to assure you once again that you will have all the presentations via the emails you provided. Not only that, if you are just joining us, you have the interpretation services in French and in English. Please kindly use any of the appropriate language, choose one language that is appropriate for you. And then before I give the floor to Ocean, let me recognize our participants from Cabo Verde. Thank you, Bon dia. Then from Cameroon, Namibia, Burkina Faso, Togo, and other parts of Africa. We say a very good morning to all of you, and thank you for joining us. Now, while we call on from non-motorized transportation, we want to listen to climate resilient and sustainable transport systems, the World Bank, from the World Bank perspective. So with your permission, I welcome on board Ocean Q from African Transport Policy Program of the World Bank. Thank you, and you have the floor. 7 minutes.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning to all from Abidjan. It has been very inspiring to learn about the practical initiatives, challenges, but also successful experiences being implemented in these countries, from the previous presentations. I also appreciated the emphasis on healthier lifestyle, as I heard today, which I strongly believe in, as it, I believe, encourages a shift away from car-centric development, wherever feasible, obviously, to a more sustainable and people-centered approach. So now on my end, I will share some reflections from the World Bank and SSATP's work in supporting this issue in link with transport asset management, particular road asset management. And I would like to make one central point, which is that safe, active mobility is not only a transport issue overall, but it's also a resilient road asset management issue, meaning that the safety of pedestrians and cyclists must be built into planning, maintenance, financing, and performance management from the start. Next slide. So as we've been listening to, active mobility is not a small issue in Africa. As we know, in major African cities, active modes account for more than 40% of trips, typically in Abidjan, Addis Ababa, Nairobi, and others, which means that walking, cycling are already carrying a lot of the daily access share, which is why this agenda is first and foremost about people. How do we make sure that people get to jobs, school, healthcare, markets, and to public transport safely and affordably in terms of overall network accessibility? But it's also an equity issue, particularly as we know that the rural access index is quite low overall in Sub-Saharan Africa, which means that a lot of people in those areas still lack adequate all-season access to transport infrastructure. And in fine, if safe walking and cycling conditions are absent, it means that these vulnerable populations will pay the highest price. Particularly in terms of overall risks, 38% of all African road traffic fatalities are actually pedestrians, which is the highest pedestrian share in terms of death of any region. And on the other side of the spectrum, when it comes to the larger climate issue, in terms of mitigation, and I think another colleague mentioned it earlier, about 23% of global energy emissions obviously are from transport. And so we know that, working on this paramount issue of enhancing safe and clean short distance travel really matters. Next slide. And so to give a sense of the urgency at hand, globally, we have 1.19 million people that die on roads, and more than half of those deaths are among pedestrians, cyclists, and motorcyclists. So these most vulnerable groups are the ones the most exposed. And in Africa, as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about around 40% of fatalities that are pedestrians. So the cause of this, when we look at more the perhaps asset management, design, and engineering aspects, and we talk about missing sidewalks, unsafe crossings, poor lighting, unmanaged speeds, or poor speed designs, weak work zone protections as well, and fragmented maintenance. So we know that these are not, random events. They are actually, talking about accidents, right, or incidents. They are very much predictable outcomes of transport systems that are either not yet designed properly or not properly maintained or rehabilitated when the time comes, right, in terms of considering the vulnerable users as well as the other modes of like the cars. Which is why safety must be treated not just as a design issue, meaning not just as, oh, this is an incremental cost, into my design, into my contract, but really as a core asset management and maintenance responsibility in different countries. Next slide. So from the World Bank perspective, one important reason that we can be optimistic towards perhaps better approaches being implemented is that globally things are changing. In particular, at least from the perspective of the World Bank and other development agencies, we've been progressively moving from treating road safety as a standalone component really to embedding it into a more streamlined and mainstream approach through a safe system approach, which also, my colleague Maricela could really talk at length. But really here, the point is to showcase this evolution, in terms of investment and thinking between mid-2013 to now. We're seeing that, more than $3 billion been invested towards road safety, and particularly that in terms of impact, these World Bank operations are providing more than 60 million people with access to safer roads, and with a lot of capacity building implemented as well. But obviously this is not enough, but it's showing kind of a positive trend. And most importantly, also since 2020, all transport investments with the road component are at the bank required to include the road safety in economic analysis so that we can demonstrate the impact, positive or negative, of our operations and turn it into more positive impacts when it comes particularly to vulnerable users, and particularly through our urban transport and road transport operations. So this has been a major shift with more than 50 projects worth about now 11 billion being under preparation with the road safety as a key objective. Next slide. And again, now why maintenance matters for safety. We really want to push for an approach that is more from a reactive repair approach to a more proactive safety-led maintenance approach. And the idea is that whenever obviously, you have faded crossings, blocked drainages, street lights that are broken, missing signs, or even we know, in some circumstances, stolen signs that are dedicated to safety, what's very important is to really plan ahead when it comes to maintenance interventions, plan ahead for replacement, meaning plan ahead in terms of even budget allocation, having some contingency budget dedicated towards, these specific maintenance interventions towards, safety measures along the road systems. Next slide. And so within SSATP, we're pleased to share, and a lot of you know already, that we have a new pillar that is the Resilient Road Asset Management pillar, so RAM for short, that has been launched in March 2025 as the fourth pillar of the SSATP overall program, and really geared towards helping countries move from reactive maintenance to proactive, climate resilient and safe road asset management. So its framing, so the framing of this new pillar is highly relevant, I believe, for active mobility, because it links together issues that were too often overlooked or handled separately, right? And the point now is really to create synergies across all these issues, whether we talk about climate, safety, risk, accessibility, institutional strengthening, or digital innovation. And as we've been discussing a lot with different governments, we feel that, building those bridges and synergies across those are really important, particularly when it comes to planning ahead. And in terms of this overall RAM agenda, what we're going to be focusing on over the next, well, now it has started in 2025, and over the next 3 years, is really looking at improving funding and financing overall, on road networks. We're looking at planning and delivery of maintenance practices, and also enhancing data and digital systems for the whole Africa. And so what's nice, I want to say about the SSATP program is that at the core, it will support key issues across, again, all the pillars and build those synergies. Next slide. Almost done there. So quick questions to you. Won't go into detail, but questions to really think through over the whole life cycle of infrastructure is, how might we? So how do we ensure, limited speeds? How do we ensure, safe crossing lightings? Particularly for women, how do we make sure that we embed indicators, KPIs, for instance, the response times, in terms of maintenance intervention to enable protection of vulnerable users? How do we include, access for disabled, etc.? Next slide. And all that has to be done over the life cycle, obviously. So I won't go into the steps, but we know from planning all the way to operations and maintenance. Next slide. And my call to action to conclude will be, I would like to close with 3 priorities, and food for thought. First, we need to plan for people, prioritize places where vulnerable peoples are indeed in danger, and put them out of these vulnerable positions. Second, fund safety through maintenance. So that should not be decorrelated, but really think through together and protect budgets in terms of not only for pavements, but also crossings and all the other issues. And last, adopt a resilient road asset management framework that is capable to measure what matters. So in terms of the KPIs, how do we ensure that we have proper indicators? And I want to say that to track safety performance as well as maintenance performance, and overall, obviously, to ensure continuity of business and continuity of accessibility, which is the ultimate outcome. And this type of framework, which will be my last sentence, can be either at the national or regional level. I was just last week in the SADC with ASANRA, and really talked about how SSATP can help put in place a resilient road asset management protocol for the whole Southern Africa region. So we hope to help in that sense, and we hope to help all the different regions across Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asian. I must really commend you for that beautiful presentation. Why I called you initially was that I thought you wanted to speak in French. So that's why I decided to move from the Anglophone to the... So
j'aurais pu aussi, but I can do both.
Okay, thank you. Sian is a senior transport specialist at the World Bank, and having attended École nationale des travaux publics de
elle a
France.
été à l'École nationale des travaux publics de l'État en France.
So thank you. Next time we'll call on you. So now I move back to Mr. Arias Sacramento, the first vice president of AARSLA and the director general of the Centre national de sécurité routière au Bénin. Monsieur Sacramento, please, as you have joined us before, unmute yourself and let's listen to you. He's talking from the data-driven road safety and infrastructure decision making. So we have listened to NMT, urban mobility, then all this low cost, and then how to plan. Then how does data help in decision making? So in the next 7 minutes, we'll be listening to Mr. Aria Sacramento, the Director General of the Centre National de Sécurité Routière of Benin. Mr. Aria, bonjour.
Bonjour Latif, bonjour tout le monde. Hi everybody. Just doing the greetings in English, but I will present in French, if that's all right. I believe translation is available for my English speaking friends.
Very available.
Great. Donc, la question qui,
So the issue that we have to discuss today is data-driven decision-making for road safety and infrastructure as part of the World Day of Bicycle.
You're saying the presentation mode, or you're saying...
So are you referring to the presentation mode?
Your presenter mode. So if you can switch to presentation mode, please.
What about now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so data-driven decision making.
Data-driven decision making. So we have a 7-minute presentation. We will lay the ground of the topic. We need to know what is the cost of the lack of data for decision making. And I think this is a model that you're all aware of. And we'll share a brief overview of Benin experience and share proposals or recommendations for our partners. So what is at stake? We all know that what is at stake, it has been mentioned by the predecessors. So 5% of vehicles in the world and 20% of deaths. These are the stats. Most of the victims in Africa are pedestrians and cyclists and users of bicycles. We have a few African countries that have a data collection system that can inform public decision. So what we need to take home is these data are reliable. We have a good intention, but without reliable data, we cannot craft those public policy in a specific manner in order to address issues which are causing fatalities and morbidities on the roads. So let me give you a brief reminder about the direct consequences of the lack of data. So without clear diagnostic, a policy will be crafted on obsolete data. Okay, maybe these are data that are very old and that do not translate into the construction of road infrastructure or in change of behaviors. So these data will not always provide a clear picture of the problem and will not be enough to make a decision or to target investments. Because road safety stakes and accident data are important. It's important to know what are the kind of population and where, in which location this happens. So is there a high rate of accident that make us invest more in those infrastructure by changing the design of the sidewalk or ensuring that the road signs are appropriate. So what is very interesting to keep in mind is that vulnerable users are generally invisible in those partial or obsolete available data. So this means that these users that need particular arrangement are not taken into account in the infrastructure plan. And of course, when you need to allocate budget, when a decision has to be made for the allocation of budget by the ministries, it becomes difficult to the people in charge of these road safety entity to decide what budget to allocate when they have to carry out some clear investigation or interventions. So when the requests are not made on reliable data, it becomes difficult to advocate in order to get the expected budget. So we have four stages. We need to collect, analyze, decide, and evaluate the data that will help you fine-tune the policies or the interventions. So regarding the sources, the data sources, we have care services, police services, insurance services. So you need to take stock of all those who are initiating data that can inform public policies, and you have to integrate those digital platforms, and also make sure you map out the black dots from the consolidated data, come up with the profile of the pedestrian, and also highlight the risk factors, which comes again and again when we are studying the accident data. And also, you have to prioritize the decision. You have to advocate for sufficient funds, and also you have to mainstream investments and actions in from the conception to the delivery of road infrastructures. You need to make sure that all these road safety data are embedded in those budgets. M&E is key because it enables it enables to correct course of our interventions. We don't always have M&E and accurate M&E tools, so we cannot in real time correct our interventions when needed. So why this model should be tailored to the context, to the African context? Because as you know, we have underinvestment in road infrastructures. That's why such a methodological approach will make us save money, because we will prioritize investment where we will have more impact. So we reach our goals, which is to reduce the number of accidents, the number of crashes and all. So these are best practices that are as part of the international frameworks, whether it is from the World Bank, the US, and others. So what it happens is also increases what is at stake for vulnerable people, because we should not forget to carry out specific interventions to protect those vulnerable users. Benin has a data collection system that exists for several years, but it also has its limitation in terms of comprehensiveness. Sometimes we cannot carry out specific analysis with those data, so we are reforming the data collection crash system that will help us have a clear and more specific idea of the locations and the reason of this accident that can inform public policies. There is also a collaboration of entities working on management of road safety. So the information data are actually circulating quite well. So we need to improve the transformation so the budget can increase. The National Observatory of Road Safety will be launched and operationalized, and the smart system is embedded in new intervention related to the building of road infrastructure. So let me just keep this page on the screen by the time Latif makes his conclusion.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Ariel Sacramento, le directeur général.
Latif.
Okay.
Latif. How I didn't get a translation. How was that done?
Okay, interpretation. You go to more. When you click more, you see interpretation service. There is a box there.
Okay.
You have interpretation. You click the language that you understand better.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it.
Thank you very much. And to all our participants, please, that is where you can get the interpretation services. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Arias Sacramento, le directeur général.
So thank you very much, Mr. Sacramento, who is the Deputy Director of the Road Safety.
Okay. Rwanda, yes. But before we get to Rwanda, we have been talking of, urban mobility, non-motorized transportation. It is now high time we're going to talk of having consideration for rural dwellers. So how do we cater for those in the rural regions? So we'll be listening to a presentation from Devin Cornell, Chief Program Officer at FICA. So these are the people the specialists in bridges, bridges to prosperity. You'll be talking on rural network transport infrastructure for the most vulnerable. So, but before then, I wish to recognize all our participants from the West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, North Africa that have joined us this morning. We have over 200 participants online on this program. So, Mr. Cornell, if you are there, please, in 7 minutes, I want to assure you that all your questions that you have sent to us, we'll respond to questions, and then we'll give you the right answers, and you have all the presentations through your emails. So, Mr. Cornell, if you are there, please, you have the floor in 7 minutes.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks. Thank you so much, Mr. Latif. I appreciate your ability to keep us as close as possible on time to get through so much important information. It's an honor to be part of this group that is focused on our most vulnerable users in transportation. And as Latif mentioned here, I'm here to talk. Let me make sure it's sharing. Is that sharing?
Yes, go ahead. We can see it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We've heard a lot of great information and great conversation about safety around our pedestrian and bicycle and vulnerable users across the region, but mostly in cities and on main transportation routes and corridors and roads. And I'm here to talk as quick as I can about the rural transportation issues and safety issues for our most rural populations. As you mentioned, my name is Devin. Devin Knell. I'm our Chief Programs Officer at FICA. We're an organization that enables safe rural transport access through the construction of rural infrastructure, mapping needs for communities and governments alike, and ensuring that infrastructure stays safe and maintained over time. We envision a world with safe arrivals for everyone everywhere. The sentence here puts it best. For rural communities, safe arrivals depend on the whole journey, not just when they get to the road. Our organization exists to fill a gap in transportation access. As several folks have mentioned here, over 1 billion individuals around the world are living in walking communities or walking or bicycling to where they need to get to go. Infrastructure planning in general is overwhelmingly focused on cities and main corridors, but in rural Africa, nearly 1/3 people live more than 2 kilometers from an all-season road. So when we talk about transportation safety, we can't stop at the paved road. We have to include the 2-kilometer walk, the hour-long hike, the 15-minute moto ride, the full journey from someone's house to where they need to go, because that journey has substantial safety risks as well. Currently, for the most rural, transportation is both an access and a safety gap. This is why we as an organization have a big focus on rural network transportation infrastructure, or RNTI. It's a model of infrastructure systems that incorporates the rural end user along with the full transportation path they actually use every day. As I mentioned, a lot of transportation planning stops at tertiary links, perhaps the final all-weather road. But beyond that, depending on the geography, as we all know, we have moto trails, walking paths, river crossings, and switchbacks to get to the final destination. Every step along that journey, there's undeveloped infrastructure, which means a single link can fail, creating safety issues and cutting off access entirely. Heavy rains might make trails unwalkable, flooding might wash out temporary bridges. But even with that, people accept the risk because workers need to get to where they're going, and individuals need to get to health centers and markets. So workers might hop on a moto on a wet trail, or they might wade across a rising waterway because the alternative is not going. So the diagram here on this slide shows what, a zoomed out version of what a rural network transportation infrastructure might look like, with your primary roads, secondary roads, and tertiary roads, where a lot of the planning often stops. And then beyond that, the sub-tertiary links that get individuals from all-weather roads to their houses, or where they need to go. So these are just some examples of what this infrastructure can actually look like on the ground. Some of these are developed, some aren't. You have things like hillside ladders, footpaths, community-built crossings, potentially climate resilient and pedestrian safe vehicle infrastructure in these rural communities. Engineered trail bridges for motorcycles, bicycles, pedestrians, and cattle, and rural road development, or as you see down here at the bottom, even not-fixed water crossings, be it formal or informal boat crossings. As I mentioned, transportation safety planning often starts where formal road development starts, but that's missing a significant portion of the journey and the safety story for rural users. We can have the safest roads, sidewalks, and bus lanes imaginable, but if users are crossing waterways on improvised logs, or riding on informal bicycle trails, or simply unable to reach the formal system at all, we're missing the full picture. And if these incidents aren't tracked, then they aren't planned for, funded, or maintained. So the RNTI system helps road agencies see and address these safety critical links before the road. As an organization, we play a role in helping to paint that full picture and then presenting and implementing solutions to improve rural transportation access and safety for the most vulnerable populations. That means government-guided community-based needs assessments, geospatial mapping and transport barrier modeling, feasibility studies, and the training and construction of necessary infrastructure for these communities. We're currently directly working in and have full programs in Rwanda, Uganda, Zambia, and Ethiopia, but we've worked across 20 countries globally, building over 800 trail and cost-effective climate resilient vehicular bridges, providing safe access to over 5 million people. Over the coming years, we're looking to continue to broaden our partnerships across the region to support rural access for these most vulnerable communities. So what can road agencies and their partners do now? We can build a thorough understanding of rural transportation gaps in your region. You can't fund them if you haven't mapped them. You can incorporate rural transport tools, trail bridges, spot improvements, path engineering into your solutions libraries. These tools do exist, but they're oftentimes not standard practice. We can include rural planning in broader infrastructure and funding cycles. Don't necessarily wait for a dedicated program, but start to plan them. And invest, and finally, use that to invest in rural infrastructure, specifically to improve safety for the last mile. The road is not the end of their journey. All right. Hope I kept it to time. With that, please visit our website, and if you have any questions beyond the Q&A, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin, for that beautiful presentation. I really commend your efforts by sticking to your presentation to the time allotted to you. So thank you. While the questions that have been sent to us, we are responding to some of the questions, but we want to assure you that we are supposed to give you floor for to make a direct questions, but we just want to do a summary of all the presentations so far. So with your kind permission, I will run through the take homes, what we have listened to from all the presenters this morning. Again, the presentation will be sent to you as we promised through your emails. So on behalf of the president of AARSLA, we want to appreciate all our participants this morning for being part of this program. Okay. With the program manager of the SSATP, we say a big thank you to you. She gave us her policy statements that AARSLA and SSATP will work together to ensure that safety is ensured in Africa, and policies that will change the life, that make life easy and make the transport sector the sustainable one, particularly as we are moving into another development plan in Africa. So we thank you for that beautiful presentation and for being part of us. So starting from safe infrastructure, according to Christian Ugut, designing routes that prioritize cyclists and pedestrians through dedicated lanes. They also mentioned safe crossing, traffic calming measures, and inclusive road design that is critical in reducing road traffic injuries and fatalities across Africa. According to a constant, the PAM framework provide a continental roadmap. According to the presenter, not too many countries have policy on walking and cycling. The Pan-African Action Plan for Mobility, PAM, offers strategic guidance for governance and stakeholders to mainstream active mobility, strengthen policies, and promote sustainable transport system across Africa. So on high impact solution to all the mobility and whatever we have. So according to the presenter, these do not always require high cost. According to Mr. Honorable Ibrahim, low cost and high impact infrastructure in many countries, effective safety interventions such as improved road markings, protected cycling corridors, and pedestrian crossing, speed management measures, and tactical urbanism approaches can be implemented at a relative low cost while delivering significant safety benefits. It is necessary to integrate active mobility into urban planning. According to Mr. Abraham Amaliba, walking and cycling could be treated as essential modes of transport, not afterthoughts. Urban development plans must incorporate non-motorized transport system infrastructure from planning stage to create safer, healthier, and more accessible cities. So, listening to Ocean from SSATP, according to her, investing in walking and cycling infrastructure contributes to climate adaptation and mitigation goals while improving public health, reducing congestion, and supporting more sustainable urban development. So, according to Mr. Arias Sacramento, so data should drive infrastructure investment and policy decisions. So, with that, I want to quickly round up by appreciating all our panelists, our participants across Africa, from the international organization, Peter, Mr. Devin, and all our executives for being part of this learning platform. It has been a very wonderful day, and we appreciate all your efforts you have put in place. The tanker crew from the SSATP World Bank will say a big thank you to you. The executive from the president of AARSLA, and to we say a big thank you to all of you for being part of this program. All our invitees from other institutions, the Federal Road Safety Commands, certain zonal commands that join online, we say big thank you to you all. And to our friend from presidency, Dr. Alajogun, Dr. Olagunju, and others, they are researchers in transport and road security. So we say thank you to you all for being part of this historic event. So we don't want you to please just live like that. We want you all to put on your video so that we can take photographs of all the participants. So let me, on behalf of the president, usher in Mr. Andrew Pitbaga to give us a closing remark while you all put on your videos. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, our team of presenters. An excellent work. Thank you, Latif, for moderating very well. I said earlier on that this webinar gives us an opportunity to learn from one another, to share what works, and to collectively strengthen our projects to road infrastructure. And I believe that is what has happened in this webinar. And more than ever, I feel that we are now properly stimulated to action because we hold positions of responsibility. We are decision makers. And the people of Africa are looking up to us for solutions so that then they can enjoy being in their cities, they can walk freely. I saw somewhere that they can actually live or rather stay in cities like they're in a party because it's enjoyable to stay in our cities. So on behalf of the executive committee of AARSLA, on behalf of this team that has organized the webinar, we thank you most sincerely. This is what we'll be doing frequently. It's just the second, but we will continuously do this because this is the only place that we can exchange, a place that we can learn from each other, and a place that we can advocate for safer roads in Africa. Thank you very much, and back to you, Latif.
Thank you to you, my president, for that word of encouragement and then appreciation to all the participants. I want to also appreciate the interpreters for giving us quality interpretation services. We say bravo. So the tanker crew from the World Bank, merci beaucoup. The program manager, SSATP, thank you, Madam. Marcella, the pillar lead for road safety, bravo. And to everybody from the Secretariat of AARSLA, we are a team of that we put this program together. We say thank you to all of you for giving us your support every time. To all our invitees and those who could not even join it in the program, either due to some tanker glitches, thank you for being part of us. Next month, we'll come up with another beautiful edition. Until next time, please put on your video and let us have a video shot, a photo shot of all the participants. Merci beaucoup. Merci infiniment. À tout à l'heure.